everyone. Welcome. It's good to be here. Good to be with everyone. We have a full house here too in the studio. Wow. So, yeah, some news, I guess. First, it just become very clear that I will go to England at the very end of May to facilitate this silent retreat, 6-day silent retreat in England with Jenny. It's a very beautiful venue and a very beautiful location. It's gonna be really helpful for all of us to drop together in the silence and some deep teachings there. So I invite all of you to join me and Jenny in that. And on the way there, I will actually stop in New York and join with some friends over in New York. So I will post the details on how you can come and join in a gathering in New York around mid-May before I fly to England from there. And of course, I mentioned last time, David will be coming to Europe in late July, most likely. So we'll be there for a period from late July to possibly early October, and then we'll be flying from Europe to China, Japan, and Australia in early October. It's such a paradox because I could feel this urge that's pushing me to take the move toward Europe and toward more of a teaching tour that's coming up. And every time that I actually follow that and move toward it, the experience that I got is to feel more and more silent. So the more I put out the word to say I'm going to be teaching, the more I feel silent. It's like a paradox. So as soon as I say, there I am, I feel my mind completely empty out, and there's drop into an experience of there's nothing to say. And there's temptation to doubt, oh my God, is that the right direction? But the experience is really showing, no, just move forward with the prompt, and this is inevitably the experience we're going to be dropping into, is just feeling more and more silence. Not really silence as in external environment or silence in terms of cease to speak, but it's more like an internal experience of silence, with very little noise, with very little concerns, and just be able to be in a very vast experience. And over time, I really started to learn to trust that is the right direction. Really doesn't really matter, what the steps that the guide is asking me to do. As soon as I move forward, then the experience is showing me that it is the right direction, because the experience is pulling me into this experience of peace, an experience of expansion, an experience of union, actually, an experience of dropping into a place of not really able to understand the problems, the questions, the specifics so much, and really come back to where the problem begins and where the solution is as well. And I, over this week, I actually had quite a few, I guess I heard different people talking about A Course in Miracles as intellectual path or a path for intellectuals, and I just feel like people probably would believe because it is a book that filled with concepts and words and explanations. That's why it's tempting to believe that it is an intellectual path or a pathway for intellectuals. But in my own experience, I had a very distinct experience that I picked up the Course because I read a few other books that were pointing to A Course in Miracles, and I picked it up. I couldn't understand a thing. I really couldn't. So I had to jump straight to the lessons because I couldn't understand the text, where it was like such a chore to try to read them or follow them. So I went to the lessons and forced myself to just start with lesson 1 and lesson 2, and really couldn't make much sense of it either. And it went on for a little bit until not very long after that, something happened in my life. I made some major shifts. Then I picked up the Course again, and all of a sudden, just really out of the blue, it became the easiest book for me. It became like music, like birds singing in my head, and I couldn't put the book down anymore, and it was just waves of emotions and tears while reading it. So I don't really feel the intellectual understanding really shifted in that short period of time, from not able to understand suddenly to be able to grasp the Course or the concepts. Something else happened, and what was reading the Course, or what was absorbing it and resonating with it, has nothing to do really with the intellectual mind. And I really believe anyone that first picked up the Course that felt this intense resonation, this resonation really doesn't come from the intellectual mind, the logical mind. It's something else that recognized where the book is pointing to. And yet over the years, it might become a chewing of concepts, a talking about concepts. It becomes like that. And sometimes I hear people say, I've been studying the Course for 30 years, but nothing really significant has shifted in my awareness or consciousness. And that is probably just a result of really taking the book literally and trying to understand it at the level of the concept. The way I really experienced is that this book has to be experienced. This book has to be practiced. Otherwise, it's just such a waste of time, actually. And you can keep going on with talking about it, or even reading about it, thinking about it, even talking with the Holy Spirit about it in your mind, but without really putting it into practice, you are not going to be convinced from the core. And if you're not going to be convinced from the core, nothing real will be shifted. You're not going to feel safe to make a fundamental shift, to follow the Spirit. Because, if I talk about the Holy Spirit as your guide, to guide you every step of the way, a lot of people would ask, how do I hear the Holy Spirit? But if I were to tell you, I can tell you how you can hear the Holy Spirit, but are you willing to follow right now? If you were to hear the Holy Spirit right now, are you able to follow? Do you dare to follow? Is there anything standing in the way right now that's going to stop you from following? then you know it's not really the real question that you're asking. How do I hear the Holy Spirit? The real question is, am I ready to follow? Really, the question is, am I ready to be happy? And am I ready to allow happiness to be my single goal and nothing else? Because the Holy Spirit is our internal guide. It's really not anything that is outside that's gonna ask us to sacrifice, to lose, to hurt ourselves, to go through a tremendous amount of pain. It isn't really what's going on, but I think that is what our projection tend to be when we think of Holy Spirit's guidance and this pathway of going toward happiness. The fact is that we already live in that kind of state of constant pain, and our tolerance for pain is getting higher and higher, but not without limit, and yet we're comfortable in saying, my life is not too bad. Actually, I'm not too bad. I know I'm not completely happy, but I'm not too bad. Because I'm familiar, I'm in a familiar zone. I have people that I know, that we have our boundaries. I know how they're going to treat me. I know how to treat them so they don't step over my boundary that make me feel this emotional outburst. I have certain way of dealing with life that I will feel maybe certain amount of lack, but it's okay, and my health in general is not optimal, but it's okay. Everything is okay, and it's okay. The thing is, the Spirit or Jesus, they're not really trying to tell us to give up what we feel good about in this life. If we feel it's okay, we're not asked to actually give up this little okayness or these little things that we already have. But we're asked to actually see we're compromising so much by feeling okay with what we have. We're compromising, all our happiness that we can ever have at this moment. I actually just saw a video a few weeks ago. This guy was talking about the difference between a saint and an ordinary guy, and he said the real difference is that ordinary people accept crumbs, and saint will accept nothing but gold. And yet, to really be able to accept nothing but gold, nothing but this overwhelming joy and happiness, takes a discipline in the mind to start with. It takes us to seemingly go against the familiar thought patterns, to go against the way that we normally think, to choose the Spirit's way of interpreting how we normally see things and how we normally talk to ourselves. But it's really not that hard. It's really because once we taste that, we never really want to go back. This internal battle of, is Holy Spirit going to ask me to suffer or sacrifice? These kind of talks or thoughts or questions only come up before we actually had a profound experience of choosing the Holy Spirit to help us. Once we had that experience, we never look back. And yet, in the spiritual circles, I heard some people talk about spiritual bypassing, meaning that you don't really look at what makes you feel unhappy. You go towards your joy and towards whatever that feels inspiring to you in the moment. And that is absolutely true to a certain degree. There is also another element that cannot be bypassed, which is to actually transcend everything that is going to stir up your emotional state. That part cannot be, just ignored and avoided. Because without that element, we don't really know what is true inspiration. We're going to mistake and lie unconsciously to ourselves to think distraction and avoiding pain and seeking pleasure is actually inspiration and is guidance from the spirit. So these two actually come hand in hand, come together. That's why, the pathway that spirit chooses for us is really the first step is to stop hiding, to allow everything that we're protecting and hiding to be exposed in the light. And that is the way to transcend anything that's going to disturb us. There is really no bypassing in that. It has to be fully experienced and seen that the false is false. And the only way to see that and truly experience it is to not hide it and allow it to come up in the light, in your own mind, And then at the same time, there has to be a permission that is given you to actually follow the spirit, the guidance inside of you that's leading you toward where your heart is wanting to go. And not really sit and wait and judge and doubt and try to analyze. So these two, I just feel, if I really can summarize, these two are probably the best way I can summarize as the pathway is exposing and follow. Exposing and follows. Exposing and following. And as you follow the Holy Spirit, the most difficult part is before it. It's right before you decided to take the step or actually take the step. Because before that the ego mind or the thought will be very dense, it will be very intense. It will tell you that all the past references show you that this is not the way to go. You will lose. There will be sacrifice that's asked of you. You don't know the outcome. And even if you did, it's not going to change anything. That is normally just happening right before the steps are taken. And as you're following the Spirit, I have to say it is a path of letting go and losing, but it's not a losing in a negative way, because the ego always associates losing as negative, losing as something that you're gonna just you don't have. But everything that we're losing, we're letting go of, is something that's awakening us, that has been awakening us all along, and we don't really know it. That is the biggest trick, is that every day we're trying to accumulate something that's going to that's going to weaken us. And what you can give is something you truly have. And what you can get and not yet have, it's not going to add anything to you, but will weaken you. So it's a good news sometimes that we just don't get the seeming things that the ego is screaming to have. But in that moment, when we feel bad, it's always because we feel we're a victim of some kind. We're a victim of we don't have enough love, we don't have enough support, we don't have enough health, we don't have enough joy, we don't have enough connection, we don't have what other people have. It's always some kind of victim story that's playing out in our mind. And if we really want to take a step to heal that moment when we feel something that is contracting in ourselves, and in that moment when we started to have this kind of talk in our minds saying that, yes, who and who did this to me? I'm a victim of them. I'm a victim of not having this. This is the moment to ask the Spirit, how can I give? Because in that moment, if you're willing to relinquish this kind of story and this intense feeling of I need to get, then the state of mind will start to shift from this, like victim state of mind, and weaken a very, very weak state of mind into a relaxed. The Spirit will tell you what you can give, and if you dare to follow that, then you find what you already have, and your state of mind will be uplifted. So the answer is never in trying to sort out the situation so to make sure that you get what you think you're lacking. That is what we have been doing all our lives. Anything that we perceive as lacking in a situation, we start to jump into the scenario to think of how to change the scenario, how to make people change, how to make ourselves change. Even when we started to share our thoughts, we started to use that to tell people this is how you should change because this is how I feel. That is a beautiful first step. It's going to the right direction of not hiding and pretending, and yet we still have to see that what is underneath is still this intense desire to get something and add something to ourselves. And we can really never find the true happiness and joy and union if we constantly get caught in this game of adding something onto ourselves. And I really feel it's so profound. You don't really need a lot of repetition in this. You really only need one. You need one true, total reversal of your thought pattern in this way. Then you're never going to be the same again. You never want to go back to think the same way again. I guarantee you, if you have one experience, that every time following that you feel tempted to think that you're lacking anything, and you feel this contraction, you feel this emotion arising, you will catch yourself so quick, and you will say, no, this is not the way to think. And there is never going to be answer to follow that kind of thought. You will catch yourself and you will stop. And the Spirit will rush in as soon as you stop and let you know how to look at it and how you can give. And you know, following that, you find the answer. It's probably not going to be, sounding very, very appealing to the ego mind, because the ego mind realizes, wow, that means like in the end, the answer is in me losing, or the answer is in me giving. It's never going to be the answer I thought is to get more. But it takes experience to know that everything we ever wanted is in that experience. And it's so simple. It's really, really simple. It doesn't take a lot of struggle, actually. The struggle is in battling with the ego. The struggle is never in battling with the spirit. The ego battles with itself. The ego thoughts come up and still being believed in. That is where the intensity is. You're trying to find the answer in that state of mind, and there is no answer. The answer is in relinquish, to stop, pause, invite the Holy Spirit. Jesus said in the Bible, ask, and it will be given, knock, the door will be open. It is so true. Anyone who actually invited the Holy Spirit to solve a specific situation knows that the specific situation actually going to be resolved in the instant. The problem is gonna be there for as long as you insist to hold on to the thought. The moment you relinquish to think about the problem the same way, you will experience peace and solution. And this is the mind training that we're talking about, because it does take you to practice and take you to feel motivated enough to loosen from the trap of the ego thought system. It doesn't take time for the spirit to come in. It takes time for the ego to stop, or for us to stop hanging on to the ego. So the mind training is actually only applying to the phase where we're still holding on to the ego tight. And we train the mind again and again and again to stop and stop and stop. And as I said, if you truly have one profound experience that you reverse in the middle of that thinking and that problem, it's not going to be any effort from that point on anymore. Then in every situation and every decision and every emotional turmoil and every relationship, you really are not going to be interested in how you see it. You're just going to be interested in how the Spirit is going to tell you how to see it, and how the Spirit is going to guide you to react and respond, and how the Spirit is going to guide you to move forward. In the end, all the pathways actually leads to the same experience. It really doesn't matter which pathway you choose, because all pathways just use different terminology, different words, and actually different mind training practice, different disciplines to train the mind to, in the end, be very obedient to the internal guide, to get in touch with the internal guide and to be obedient to it. That's really all the pathways are doing. Then in the end, the experience is a universal experience where everything is pointing to is the same place and the same experience, the same space. So it doesn't really matter which one you choose, but once you find the resonance with it, once you find your own pathway, stick to it. Don't jump around, because there's not going to be much difference, really. Just stick to it, but really, really practice. And A Course in Miracles actually says it is a complete, meaning that it doesn't take you 80% of the way, then you have to use another pathway to finish the final 20%. It says that it is complete in itself if you do what it asks. And it's really not in the words and the concepts. So I think I'm gonna open it up and see whether any of you have any comments and questions, expressions, and everyone here too.
Yeah, I just felt like everything you were saying was for me. It always feels really good. And I could see when at the beginning you were talking about, not dumbing down a lack of happiness and really like truly opening up to allowing the Spirit to give it to you and not being okay with just being okay.
Mm-hmm.
I could see a certain wobble in what I had come to a deeper experience of this morning, which was, a surrendering to what was incoming, and then you came back around and brought me to it. So I feel when I'm coming to that experience of, like, it gets very focused down and the Spirit just wants you to listen, follow, that thought, is there something I should be doing for my happiness, can come up like a doubt thought. Whereas in the earlier steps it was essential to bring it up, to move you out of situational thinking, really, I guess, more than situations. I just wondered if you could talk a bit more about discerning between the two, or is that really why I need my mighty companions right now in moments, to just say it's this versus that? Is there anything?
Yeah. I think when we talk about not to accept compromise, not to accept a state of just mediocre comfort and okayness, it isn't really talking about fighting anything either. It isn't really talking about trying to strive to anything. It's just to be aware that you can have so much more. You can have so much more, and you deserve to have so much more. And it is at your disposal right now. It is, The Spirit is just wanting to rush in and give you everything. I want you to basically invite Him in right now and say, please tell me, what I need to do to be happy. Tell me. And this can be a very abstract question too. And that is, even when we're talking about prayer, at the beginning of the prayer is, please let me have this as a very specific thing, external thing, as a prayer. And then gradually, as we're moving toward, more and more single focus of, I only want happiness and I do not know what can brings me happiness, then the prayer becomes, please show me how to be happy, and please tell me what I need to do right in this moment to move toward that direction. That is really the question. Then you're basically asking, what is my true will? Instead of this, tell Spirit, this is my will, can you make it happen for me? It becomes a very humble state of, what is my will? Because my will and God's will are the same, and my will is my happiness, and I really do not know how to move forward and how to bring about that state of mind. So show me how to do. And I feel like, just even if right now, for example, I know a lot of people might have this question like you having, Sarah, like this right in this moment, I don't feel happy. I still don't feel happy. Mm-hmm. Maybe after years, I still don't feel happy right now. What is that I'm not doing? What else can I do? I don't really feel that needs to become like a pressure of, oh my God, I'm still not happy. I feel the right way to actually go about it and to look about it is, what can I give in this moment? That is really the most practical question, because now nobody really and nothing can stop you from giving in this moment. People can stop you from getting something. You getting anything is completely dependent seemingly on the situation, on other people, on a lot of things, but nobody and nothing can stop you from giving. This is completely up to you. And then I can ask the Spirit, how can I give in this moment? And it doesn't really means that I have to move this body toward anything. It can just be, I have to wait too. I cannot design my curriculum, ask the Spirit, how can I give? Then I come up with an answer for myself as if I know and I'm in control. We really have to wait and allow the Spirit to provide the answer. A lot of the times it will be some thought come to mind to reach out to call certain people, or to keep going with a project, mm-hmm. but with a very different mentality, with a very different attitude. Even you just with this question in mind, what you don't realize is your attitude will change. How can I give? Then everything you're going to be doing the next moment is for you. Everything you're doing is not a mundane thing. It's not at random. It's not to please other people. Everything you're going to be doing is for you to give, to get in touch with what you already have.
For happiness.
For happiness,
right.
Exactly. So then it definitely doesn't really rely on the content of what you receive in terms of guidance of what to do either. Mm-hmm. It's really just that question and that shift of mentality and attitude. So, of course, the thought of, I'm still not happy, I don't know what I did wrong, this is definitely coming from this timeline, this pressure. I'm still not there yet. But it's always about the present moment. What if you can never get there as the ego project? You can never get there. It's just right now in this present moment, how can I get in touch with the true self? How can I give?
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Sarah. It's beautiful. I was just thinking about this revolver scene. We're all very familiar with the movie Revolver. At the end, Jake Green went to his enemy's room, and his inner guidance or his inner voice, the Spirit was just telling him, give him what he wants. And that was a strip of his pride. That was a strip of everything. And sometimes that voice just ringing in my head, especially when there's a shift into the giving mentality. I want to give right now. How do you guide me to give? What is that? This immediate step toward giving. Then this voice always rings in my head. Give them what they want. And be happy. Like truly, not in terms of just action. Really just action without the attitude is nothing. There's a gap. A mismatch between the attitude and the actual action. Then it doesn't really matter. It's about the attitude. Give them what they want and be happy. This is what we truly need to learn, this attitude of giving. It's not something to learn so much, but it's actually something we need to shift, like a reverse in our mind. Actually, Jesus said there are 3 lessons. The first is to give all to all. The second is to have peace, teach peace, to learn it. The third one is to be vigilant only for God and his kingdom. And he said that only the first lesson, to give all to all, is what you need to do. And it's in the mind. It's in the mind. So the instruction is that the second lesson, the third lesson will follow if you started to reverse this way of thinking from getting to giving. And yet the getting mentality is so natural, we don't even see it. That's the problem. We don't see we're trying to get. We don't. It's just the way we grow up with. The society is kind of the way how things are, is that you get and then you be happy. Happiness and getting almost are equal. Then comparison and competition are so valued in this world to facilitate that way of thinking. It's good to get into competition, and if you win, you're good. Really? Does that really feel good? It doesn't matter, because all the reflection will tell you reached there, you get there. People look up to you, and we lose touch with the actual experience of, does that really fulfill anything? And we settle for this facade of must be good because everybody now look up to me now and I feel superior. That becomes something that we settle, and even at the cost of happiness and true satisfaction, we settle for that.
There's a question from Victoria.
Okay. Hi, Victoria.
Oh, am I on?
Yes.
Oh, I'm a complete mess lately. Every time I watch this program, I just start crying, and because I feel like I'm in, as far as the practice, I'm completely there, but there's this overwhelming fear of just letting go of everything. I'm in a job that I should quit, but if I do that, I won't have any money, and I just feel like Spirit is telling me to just go walk off like Peace Pilgrim, and I'm not willing to do that. So I just feel stuck. I'm sorry. I don't want to be a complete mess. I apologize for. Anyway, that's where I'm at. And my question was, give what to whom? I mean, when you were talking about the movie, give them what they want, give whom what they want. I mean, in the Revolver movie, I think I know which one you're talking about. You know, he was very clear cut. He was a bad guy, you know, and everything was very clear cut about, you know, his ego was, you know, all about me, what I can get and all that. But I feel like my ego is pretty damn tricky. I don't know what to give to whom. So
That's beautiful. That is a beautiful question to ask the spirit. Give what to whom? and I think if it doesn't really make sense to you, give them what they want. This specific thought right now doesn't make sense. Don't get to hang on about it, because it will make sense when in the right moment. The thing is, the most important thing is to get into this attitude and direction of giving, and the specifics we have to ask the spirit to give to us, actually. And this is a beautiful exercise just for us to stop planning, stop trying to figure out our path, and ask, then wait. And then really it's very beautiful when something dawn on you and the spirit's answer come in some way. Sometimes it doesn't come as a thought, it comes as a feeling, it comes as a knowing. Sometimes it comes as from your friend or some people saying something, or even something you read on Facebook or a movie that you watch. It will come. I've never had yet one experience that I asked and I haven't received an answer. I have no experience of that. So I know for a fact, and I can say it with conviction, that when you ask, the answer will come, but you have to be willing to step back and wait for the answer instead of trying to come up with the answer just in case it doesn't come, you know. So that is really our practice, to ask, then step back, ask and step back, ask and step back, and it comes normally in the moment that you really least expect it. Your mind is absorbed in something else, or you actually forgot about it. But it normally pretty quickly, actually. I normally give myself 24 hours, and I said it will come within 24 hours, and has been my experience. And in terms of, you know, what you feel the spirit is asking you to do is too big, and you're not ready to take the full step, I feel like, just in my own experience, I really feel the spirit does guide in very practical small steps. I don't deny that there's certain moment that I felt is such a huge leap that there was no way I can make it. It was too huge, and there was no small steps in between anymore, that I have to jump this biggest leap. But in those moments, I always have help by my side, where someone would tell me that I'll do it with you, I will support you in this, what do you need? And somehow it's always manageable. In terms of, quitting jobs, and I do want everyone to know that the curriculum and the pathway and the forms, how it lays out in your particular path, is going to be very individualized. The end experience is going to be the same, but how to get there, you have to ask the spirit within to guide you, because if you rush too fast, then it's not going to do any good. It's going to make you feel overwhelmed and probably too fearful even. Because when I, just looking at my own experience, when I felt I was going to quit my job, and I had nothing, I didn't even think I was going to just walk around like a peace pilgrim, and I didn't have anything that's in front of me, just quit my job and there's nothing. And I thought, the reason I didn't want to quit my job, of course, there was security reasons, and my husband at the time disagreed with me. He just challenges me every time I raise it up. But there was also a reason that I really, really love my boss that I was working with. I refuse. I basically said I refuse to quit as long as he's there. I loved working with him so much. And there's no chance he's going to leave that job. He's been there like 8 years at the time and was a star in the company. But within a week after I thought of quitting, he quit before me. And I was like, so when he told me, he put me to his office, he said, I quit this morning. I was like, you quit this job? He said, what else? Of course this job. What are you talking about? And I couldn't, but I knew I didn't tell anybody, but I knew that was the spirit telling me it's okay to move on. Don't hold back. And then right before I submitted my resignation, I got a huge salary raise. And I thought, oh my God, maybe I'm not supposed to quit. But it's just, this kind of little things going to come my way. Sometimes it's a huge sign to go. Sometimes it's like a doubt and hesitation. But at least at that moment, quitting was manageable to me. But I didn't jump straight to just nothingness and walking around. I actually, after I quit, I was too scared to do nothing, so I started a business myself, just to justify that I'm still doing something to myself, that I'm not too, I couldn't really justify to anybody or my parents that I don't have anything that's holding me. So I started a business, but then it's really wrapping up with everything. The business is just for me to have a lot of time at my own disposal to do what I wanted to do, and then at the same time be able to explain to people, which I still felt mattered to me. But then when the business was closed, then that was the biggest leap for me too, and also of course letting go of everything. But I don't really feel in any point along my journey there was no support when the real leap came, So I just want to assure you that ask Spirit to break it down. If you feel this is truly the direction that He's guiding you to do, ask Him to give you practical steps and ask Him to provide you with support that you can manage. And I trust He will. He definitely is. This is how it goes.
I never really thought about asking for specific steps.
Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Ushi.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was so good. When you were saying that about this, what can I give? And I felt, I haven't thought of the questions. It was really, really good. And it was got better and better. And then when you were saying this about with this revolver scene, because I watched that, only this clip, and then it's give them what they want. And then there was really this big question, because mainly probably because I'm going to see I'm going to quite a big family thing in an hour's time, and I was a bit like, what? And this idea of people pleasing then came up, and how do I know if it's something like from this very good place of simply turning the slack thing over and then what can I give into, when does that turn into people pleasing?
Great question. Thank you. That's really beautiful.
Welcome.
Yeah, people pleasing is another form of hiding, actually, and that is a main tactic used by the ego to hide our identity, is to pretend, to really pretend that we are this role and we are this mask, and use interactions with people to hide our true identity. So when we interact with people, we hide behind this mask and we say, this is who I am, and I'm going to do things according to how you're going to reinforce this mask. If my mask is a very loving wife, I'm going to do things so that you're going to reflect back and you're going to reinforce that I am a loving wife. So I'm going to do things for you so to get that reflection, in words or in some kind of reflection, appreciation or something. And it's true, and we always wear different masks, different roles. You can just ask yourself, do you behave differently in front of your family and in front of your course friends, for example? If yes, then you're playing different roles and you're wearing different masks all the time. We do it all the time. We have a whole sets of different sizes of masks to wear at different moments with different people. But the purpose is really the same, is to hide this immense light that is behind, and this feeling that's really nothing is going to tell us who we are, nothing is going to reinforce who we are. So by really playing a role in our life and interact with people, we are playing out our weakness big time. Then people pleasing is a step further. Not only we play, hiding behind a mask, we're gonna even weaken us even further by hiding, to say that I only play in a certain way that we agree as a game, so that I can feel a certain way, good way or bad way, victim or something. Anyway, we just people please to get reinforcement and approval or some kind of feedback. This is how we're going to play this game. So it's very much like a hiding game, and I always feel that people pleasing is another way of holding private thoughts and private minds. So in terms of even what we're practicing, no private thoughts and no people pleasing, I always see these two are the same, really. So when we say give them what they want, and in terms of giving, it isn't really playing small and playing games to get. The giving is not to give to get. The giving is give so that I can stay in that attitude of giving, just because the Spirit is guiding me to do that specific step. And the goal of giving is to get in touch with that kind of attitude. It isn't to get any kind of reflections. It isn't to get any kind of specific things. So it's actually unconditional. It's totally unconditional. And then if while you're giving, you perceive that people are react in a way that is not really satisfying to you, and you feel a reaction, then you know that this giving is coming from a place of giving to get, and that isn't really gonna do it. It's some form of people pleasing, sneak in to the situation. So that, if anything, that is the difference. And I feel like to do this at this point, to ask to give from the Spirit's perspective and ask for guidance is almost like a more as a training step, and we constantly ask and we follow that step. But people pleasing is almost like more unconscious. It's a kind of a game that we're playing for a long time. It's just gonna sneak in from time to time, and it's for us actually to watch that, catch ourselves, and then use our feelings really as the guidance to feel, oh my God, I don't feel good, so I'm not in a true giving state at this point. I'm really not in the true giving. So now come back, and how do you guide me to look at this? How do you guide me to move forward from this point?
Sounds as if I'm going to have a great training opportunity. Because it's simply because I can see this. I always feel that I have a lot of respect for my ego, because it always sneaks in through the back door without me noticing, and somehow simply be watchful.
Yeah, that's exactly the training, is to actually catch the ego and stop identifying with it. The more we catch ourselves and ask and step back to allow the spirit lead the way, we're going to start to feel differently, and we're going to start to identify with that different feeling. So when the ego comes in, this feeling that it probably had been familiar, that we identify with this mediocre okayness, and sometimes it's contraction and this anger or the resentment, we actually feel familiar with it and accept as ourselves. They're going to become foreign to us and going to become very acute when we feel that. It seems like it takes, a time for us to become more and more aware. But yeah, this is exactly how it goes.
Great, thank you.
Thank
That
you.
was really good. Thanks.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining me today. I hope to see you next week, and I hope to meet you in person as well in New York, in England, in Europe this summer. Otherwise, I hope to continue just this way with you. It just really feels the same anyways. So thank you so much. Bye.